Week 1 of the 2022 NFL season is here. You know what that means. It's time for my best bets. My best bets are back for another season. And I know because it's week 1, you're getting antsy. You're getting excited. You're pumped up. You want to have some action this week 1 of the 2022 NFL season. And I'm here to help. Here to help you place your money on the right games, the right sides. And I'll be doing that all season long here on the channel, so definitely consider subscribing if you are a fan of betting on the NFL. This will be the spread picks video where I give you my 5 favorite spread picks this week. I will also be making other videos every week of the 2022 NFL season, including our early line look ahead early in the week, where I look and advise you on some of my favorite lines to bet early in the week. I'll also be breaking down my favorite totals of the week, and I will also give you my parlays to play and win this week. So if that sounds good, definitely consider subscribing. Gronk spike the like button. And let's get to week number 1, best bets for this season. Let's go. One thing to note about week 1 is that you're not going to win these bets based on value betting. And what I mean by that is all the value for week 1 is gone. It's long gone. These lines have been up since the spring. They've been absolutely soaked up and the value is gone. So what you are winning these bets on is your takes, is your feeling about these football teams entering the season, and how you differentiate from the market, how I differentiate from the market, the teams that I love pretty much more than the market does. And that's the teams that I'll be looking at here and betting on in week 1. As we move forward, we'll be able to win through value and value alone almost. But this is the week 1, and especially early in the year, where your takes and your preseason predictions account for the most success. So let's get to the week 1 picks, beginning with my first pick, which is the Baltimore Ravens laying the 7 points in New York or New Jersey versus the Jets. Joe Flacco and the Jets taking on John Harbaugh's Ravens with Lamar Jackson. I like the Ravens here. And the reason I'm willing to lay a pretty big number for week 1 and 7 points is due to the fact that, well, the Jets don't have their starting quarterback, Zach Wilson. And some may say that, well, Wilson, Flacco, does it really make a difference? Who knows? But one thing I do know is that Joe Flacco is a statue. He is probably the slowest quarterback starting this weekend. And that being said, the Baltimore Ravens are a pretty aggressive defense. They are going to get after Joe Flacco. There is no coach or no team that knows Joe Flacco better and knows what makes him uncomfortable better than the Ravens. I believe that the Jets are a very young team. I believe that the Jets lack maturity in this spot to start the season. They don't know what they don't know. Meanwhile, the Baltimore Ravens are a team on a mission. Many of their players are coming back from injury, which is hard to account for if you're setting these lines. You don't quite know what a Marcus Peters means to the Baltimore Ravens. You don't quite know what a Ronnie Stanley means for the Baltimore Ravens. You don't quite know how Lamar Jackson will look. And I believe that Lamar Jackson has a chip on his shoulder coming into this year. I believe in Rashad Bateman taking a breakout season in 2022 and really taking off this year. And despite them missing J.K. Dobbins or Gus Edwards or whatever running backs, I'm not too concerned about that. I do believe that Mark Andrews is going to be a mismatch here in this game. I don't see a safety or a linebacker that can cover him one-on-one from the Jets. I do think that the Ravens will be able to stop the run with their big men in the middle. Big Michael Pierce, big Calais Campbell, while they're fresh. They're a little bit older, fresh, early in the year. And if you're forcing Joe Flacco to make plays on 3rd and long against this secondary, it's just not going to happen. So overall, I don't see a way that the Jets make this super competitive. I feel like the Ravens are a team that usually start the season hot. They really care about preseason, which means that they're physically ready to go. They're amped up, and they're motivated this year after a down season. I believe the Ravens have a lot to prove, and they come out and they prove it in week 1 by smacking around the New York Jets in this game. Ravens -7. Best bet number 2 for week 1 is the Philadelphia Eagles -4. Now, many of the sharps out there, the so-called sharps, may dislike this based on the fact that the Lions and Dan Campbell were a covering machine last year. So, I understand that took place last year, but I just don't see how this Philadelphia Eagles team, which is loaded, absolutely ridiculously stacked from a roster standpoint, is only a 4-point favorite over the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions, to me, project as a 6-7 win team this year. I do not see them making that jump to the playoffs this year. The Eagles are a team that I think could be one of the best teams in the league, one of the best teams in the NFC. I project them to win the NFC East, and they have to start off hot. This is a game that they should dominate. I understand that the matchup here, from an offensive line, defensive line perspective, is not an awful one for Detroit. Detroit does have a good offensive line. Detroit does have an improved defensive line. But the Philadelphia Eagles have arguably the strongest offensive line and strongest defensive line in the NFL. I think whenever you can force Jared Goff into more pure passing situations, it's a positive for the opponent. The Eagles are not going to allow much on the ground from Swift, Jamal Williams, or anybody else in this game, as Jordan Davis, Fletcher Cox, and Javon Hargrave with Brandon Graham back is going to be so difficult to run against. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Barry Sanders. It's going to be hard to run against this defensive line. On top of that, the Eagles have improved their secondary to the point where they can cover a TJ Hawkinson with a Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. They could cover DJ Chark with Darius Slay. They can cover, I don't know, St. Brown with Avonte Maddox or James Bradbury. I just feel like all around, the Detroit Lions offense is going to struggle if Jared Goff doesn't make throws down the field. And then we have the offense where I just don't see the linebackers for Detroit being able to hold Jalen Hurts and this running game. They're not athletic enough. And then the secondary of the Lions can't cover A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith. There is no corner on the Lions where I say, wow, that guy can lock A.J. Brown up. There is no chance. So this spread, to me, should be at least a touchdown. I think there's value here, and I'm taking the Eagles. Best bet number 3 for week 1 of the 2022 NFL season is the San Francisco 49ers laying the 7 over the Chicago Bears. This game is another big spread. It's another pretty big number. And I understand laying a big number early in the year, especially with a new quarterback that we've never seen in Trey Lance, is a little bit worrisome. But there can be value here because the market doesn't want to get too overexposed in one direction or the other in week 1. It's much easier to lay a bigger number, 7, this week than down the road, where you will see spreads down the road of 14, 15, 16. You will see that eventually. This game, to me, if the Niners are as good as I think and the Bears are as bad as I think, this spread should be 10. This spread should not be 7. So when I look at this game, I see a San Francisco defensive line that is arguably the best in football. I just said that with the Eagles, but this is one of the top lines in the league. Nick Bosa may have 3 sacks in this game. The Chicago Bears offensive line is probably the worst unit in the NFL. They have backups. They have young, unproven starters. They have guys they've picked off the street. These guys are not going to be able to deal with the power of Armstead, of Nick Bosa, and company. The Niners will dominate the line of scrimmage on that side of the ball in the run game, and in the pass game. And they're athletic enough and fast enough to track down Justin Fields in the open space, so I'm not worried about scrambles too often here. With linebackers like Dre Greenlaw and, of course, Fred Warner. I do believe the Niners will be missing Jimmy Ward, but I'm not too worried about this secondary for San Francisco, a secondary that is facing arguably the weakest receiving core in the league. Charvarius Ward will likely take on Darnell Mooney, and that will be a fair enough matchup for the Niners to dominate that side of the ball. The other side of the ball, I think people are underestimating the Shanahan preparation entering the season. No one has seen Shanahan's offense with Trey Lance. I think that could be a huge point of emphasis this week in terms of a potential blowout, because Shanahan is probably the most gifted play caller in football, and this is one of the most creative coaches in football. And this is a defense in Chicago that isn't uber talented. They are pretty simple in their scheme, and I do feel like Shanahan will be able to find different ways of exposing it through some creative things that the Bears or nobody else has ever seen on tape, which is a scary thought for any defense facing Shanahan. So Trey Lance, you might be worried, but I'm not worried based on that fact alone. Brandon Ayuk is ready to go this year. Might have a big game. I don't see anybody covering him on Chicago in terms of down the field. Debo's a problem with the ball in his hands. We know what George Kittle can do. It doesn't matter who the running back is to me. And the Bears don't really have a great D-line that can expose the Niners' interior O-line, which is probably the weakness of their team. So the 49ers should dominate this game in really all facets. I don't see where the Bears win this game. I got the Niners 100%, and I'm laying the 7. My fourth best bet of week number 1 of the 2022 NFL season. This is probably going to be a popular upset selection, but I'm going to take Jacksonville. Just take the money line. If you want to take 2.5, you can. That's cool too. But I'm willing to say I'm going to take Jacksonville to win the game. There might be some value here of taking the 2.5 based on the game potentially being lower scoring, but I do view Jacksonville as possibly the more talented team in this game with the better quarterback. Yes, I said it. I think Trevor Lawrence will be a much better quarterback this year than Carson Wentz, and I do think early in the year this year, there is value on betting on Trevor Lawrence. I do think Trevor Lawrence is going to take a step forward. I do think he's going to improve, and I do see Carson Wentz struggling. I have not, really loved what I've heard out of camp from Washington, and that's big time concern. And you play a defense that's a big wild card in Jacksonville. People might be concerned about that are casual fans watching this video. You're like, Mitch, I don't know, Jacksonville's defense is really going to cause Carson Wentz problems. Trust me, they've got some ballers over there. The front seven can really play. Trayvon Walker added to the mix. Roy Robertson-Harris is a good football player. They added some big beef in the interior to stop the run. Josh Allen is a baller. Arden Key is a good player. They're athletic. They're very fast. The linebacking duo, Alua Khan, Devin Lloyd, they can play. The secondary, I feel like, won't be outmatched in this game with Darius Williams added to the team on top of having Shaq Griffin. I feel like this defense for Jacksonville is going to be the story of this game. I think they're really going to play well, and they're going to cause Washington fits on that side of the ball. On the flip side, I think that Trevor Lawrence will come through with a few plays. I think that he's athletic enough to extend plays versus a good front in Washington. If there is one area I'm concerned about, it is Washington's pass rush, but Chase Young's banged up to begin the year, and I don't think he'll be playing in this game. Even if he is, I'm not overly concerned about that. Jacksonville's offensive line, like I said, concerns me, but I think that he'll be able to extend plays, get the ball out to Travis Etienne. They have advantages, with Evan Ingram, with Christian Kirk in the slot. Those are areas that Jacksonville can take advantage of Washington where they're weak at linebacker. They're weak in the slot corner position. I think that those guys can really work in this game. So I feel like Jacksonville is probably the team that is an underdog this week that I think is mispriced in terms of, I feel like they might have a better year. I think they might be a better team than their opponent. And despite them on the road, I'm going to take Jacksonville to win this game under Doug Peterson and get his first win. My fifth and final best bet for week number 1 of the 2022 NFL season is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady going to Dallas, a game that I will be attending -2.5. Now, you could have bet on this game, as did I, a couple weeks ago when everyone was freaking out about Tom Brady at like -1, maybe 1.5. 2.5, still under a field goal. Anywhere under a field goal, I'm willing to take 100%. I feel like Tampa Bay is a much, much better team than the Dallas Cowboys. And the stadium and environment is not too concerning, as Dallas doesn't really have a great home field advantage, and it actually helps a team like Tampa, who's a pass-first team. It's an environment that helps passing the football. And really, when you look at Dallas, their offense is in shambles a little bit, right? They already lost Amari Cooper. Michael Gallup's not playing. Who's stepping up a wide receiver? Jalen Tolbert's a rookie. Like, who is their number 3? Is it Brown? I don't know. So really, the Bucs, unlike last year, where they had to cover Cooper, Lamb, Gallup, they had to cover Schultz, they had to cover Pollard and Zeke. They're not going to be stretched thin. And the way I look at last year's game is Tampa Bay managed to win that game. And that was one of the flukiest games like in NFL history from a turnover standpoint. I think they had like 4 turnovers, a couple fumbles, a couple, wacky interceptions, 1 or 2 interceptions there. And they were deep into Dallas territory. Like, it was a crazy game, and Tampa Bay still won the game. Like, it was insane how Tampa was able to win that game. It was like the only game ever that was like that game, where there was that many turnovers, that many yards conceded and things like that, and penalties as well that Tampa Bay took, and they were still able to win the game, which just speaks to the talent that Tampa Bay had last year and has this year. Never mind that Dallas is missing the talent that they had last year, right? They don't have Tyron Smith in this game. He's out, right? So you might have a rookie left tackle, Tyler Smith, or you might have a backup left tackle in Justin Peters, a guy off the street that hasn't really practiced all offseason. You've got a new continuity offensive line playing a dominant defensive line that added Akeem Hicks to Vita Vea and Shaq Barrett. And, the way that Todd Bowles and company are talking about this team, they believe this is the deepest team they've had since Tom Brady's come to Tampa Bay. They believe that this defense is really going to be awesome. I believe that as well. I think Devin White is a man on a mission that will have a big game here, shutting down Zeke in the run game, shutting down Tony Pollard out of the backfield. Levante David's healthy. The secondary is fully healthy. We didn't see them at all healthy last year. So I think that Carlton Davis can slow down CeeDee Lamb enough, and that allows, Dallas is going to have a difficult time to really move the ball, because the run game is going to have difficulty against the best run defense in the league entering the year. And there's not a lot of other options to go to, right? So they're not going to be able to match Tom Brady over there. Tom Brady's got perhaps Chris Godwin in this game back, but even if he doesn't, Mike Evans, Julio's looking great out of training camp. Russell Gage is healthy. Cam Brate, Kyle Rudolph, Leonard Fournette, and countless other names. I know that people are concerned about the offensive line, but they still have 1 All-Pro, 2 All-Pro in Wirfs and Mason. Donovan Smith's a Pro Bowl left tackle. So they got 3 players that are Pro Bowl or better. And yeah, I'm not too concerned about Robert Hainsey, who they took in the 3rd round last year. So I feel like Brady's going to get the ball out quick. He's going to pick his matchups. He's going to have matchups on the outside that he can attack. I see a big Julio game here in week 1. And I feel like the Bucs could possibly blow them out. There's a chance for that. But even if they don't and they just win by a field goal, you still cover. So either way, you're good. And did I mention that Brady has never lost to the Cowboys before? And I think he's 6-0. So I'm taking the Bucs here to win as the final best bet on Sunday Night Football. I'd recommend placing that one early, though, on Sunday. Don't wait till last minute. Don't chase. Place it early, and don't allow the price to get pushed up, because if it gets past a field goal, it becomes less appetizing to me. So those are my 5 best bets versus the spread. I feel good about week 1. I like a lot of these bets a lot. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, and let me know your best bet of week 1. I'm glad to be back doing some best bets. This is one of my favorite videos to do every week. So again, guys, make sure to subscribe, Gronk spike the like button, and let's start winning some money this season. Peace.